The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
All right, GM body. How's it going?
Morning. It's good. How are you guys doing?
buddy? Good.
Oh, you got the Magical Crypto Friends shirt on. You got the
Oh yeah, this is OG.
Yeah. I tried. I liked it at first. Somewhere in there, I got less and less Maxi. Then I started liking maybe a couple of the guys on the show a little bit less.
Well, this is from the conference. The conference was awesome.
Wait,
that was in New York.
There's a Magical Crypto Friends conference.
They had one. Okay. Yeah, and that's when we threw the Monero after party after it. It was epic, and the conference itself was fantastic. It really was. Nice. Just because of the people that were hanging out there. That's where it's like me interviewing Max Kaiser, and I was getting all those guys on Monero.
Huh.
That all came out of that.
I mean, there was still like this flitting hope that maximalists and Monero people could be friends.
Yeah, Monero was like welcome there.
Was there a clip I saw recently of you interviewing Jack Mollers?
Yeah, Jack Mollers was like, yeah, I love Monero, man.
I wasn't sure if that was Jack Mollers.
What a different time.
And then what's the other?
Oh, that wasn't a recent clip. That was an old clip.
Somebody put it up. Yeah.
Shit. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was recent. I was like, no way. How can he say that?
What's the guy that wears the cowboy hat? What's
Jimmy Song?
Asian cowboy
Jimmy
hat
Song, man. I haven't even seen him around anymore. I'm like so out of the BTC Maxi crowd. I don't even see his tweets or anything. Is he still around?
I guess so.
Would love to get him on a Monero talk or MoneroTopia.
Maybe he blocked me, and I don't see his tweets anymore.
Oh, he blocked me too.
I don't know.
Because I interviewed him there as well. That was an epic one. I was asking him about because he was selling. I forget what he was even selling, and I was like, yeah, I was like, oh, so if I bought these with coins that were just that were associated with crime, clearly associated with crime, like would you accept them now for this book, or would you prefer clean Bitcoin? And he just like went berserk.
There was a period of time where I was like dedicated that I was going to get like a whole stash of dirty Bitcoin, and everyone that demanded Bitcoin payments was just going to get dirty Bitcoin. But then I was like, where do I get dirty Bitcoin? Like, then I was going to have to start a darknet, and it just seemed like too much work ultimately.
Jimmy Song is known for like backing out of debates or like kind of rage quitting.
But it was great. I really had him cornered. It was at a conference, and I just went up to him. It was good though. But yeah, he intently. Yeah, he doesn't care about Bitcoin's lack of fungibility, apparently.
Unsurprising.
Yeah, I mean, I think Monero's fungibility hasn't even begun to truly shine in terms of the utility that offers. I think obviously we're going to see that.
One of the places where fungibility always comes up is when I'm talking with people about exchanges, and they're like, well, I want to do this, and then I'll pull some Bitcoin off, but why don't we just convert it to Monero? I'm like, well, hang on. Like, you don't understand. You're going to pull this money off of this like shady ass exchange, and then they're going to see that you're converting to Monero, and that's like, that itself is a price history, and they might not be okay with that. You're going to have to go through some kind of, mixing or swap service, right? So then maybe that Bitcoin becomes dirty, and it's just like, like, this is fungibility. Like, this is exactly the problems that we talk about. It's like the fact that
and then when you want to send it, when you want to send your crypto back onto an exchange, I mean, there's no, they could ask questions when you're sending your Monero, but with Bitcoin, they can clearly just say like, no, we're not going to allow you to, we've determined these Bitcoin are dirty. So
I wonder when the first story is of like Coinbase shutting someone's account because they clearly moved their money onto RetroSwap.
Vic tells that story. I think that was like when he used Bitcoin on like dark market to buy pharmaceutical, something for that his wife needed, and either Coinbase sent them like a notice, or they even blocked his.
No, but I'm asking, when is the first story that someone pulls their Bitcoin off of Coinbase and then uses it on RetoSwap. And then Coinbase is like, hey, we can tell that this Bitcoin went to RetoSwap. We know you got into that dirty Monero. Like, when is that first story going to happen? Hopefully never.
Yeah.
Hopefully it just never happens, because that's a problem. But
yeah. Well, that's why everybody's just got to move over to Monero. Then we don't have that problem. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
then it won't be a problem at all.
We have enough people sitting in Monero, then it's no longer a problem for us. Speaking of people sitting in Monero, how we doing with price?
Oh, we could be better, but we've been a lot worse. 328.34 according to Kraken.
Yeah, so we really came down hard, right? Harder than other cryptos, I feel like. But
Generic
I guess
name,
we had pumped more.
Generic name
Yeah,
123
pumped harder
says
than everything else.
RetoSwap is P2P, and you can't detect swaps on chain without extra metadata. Oh, well, I would assume that chain analysis has that metadata. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I just don't know how RetoSwap is.
He's kind of correct, because like RetoSwap is you're just using it's like an untied like swap, and that's kind of the point, is that you're going to be sending someone some money over like Venmo, right? And you're going to say it's for something specific, but not for Monero, right? You're going to be like, oh, it's for a haircut. And it's just an attempt of untying the fiat transaction from the actual Monero swap. And the only way that there's really no way they could know it's happened, unless potentially they do a swap with that person as well, and then they can see their Venmo account, and maybe see some history if they really want to by subpoena, and maybe then they could correlate, potentially, possibly, maybe guess what other Venmo transactions are part of a Monero swap, but it's really decoupled.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It forces everyone to use Tor by default, which is kind of annoying, but it's also kind of good at the same time, for the very reason of just doing that, decoupling individuals from swaps.
Right on. Okay, well, that's good to know. Yeah,
somewhat.
I've studied it so much.
Somewhat related to all this, not really, but actually, I wanted to cover this in the intro. Big XMR Bazaar update. So we added to the Monero map, we added a layer of Monero called Monero near me. So any user on XMR Bazaar can edit in their profile, can turn on Monero near me, and just notify people the general city that they're in and whether they're willing to be contacted for cash to Monero trades, or to just like be a Monero local buddy, right? Somebody to reach out to.
That's awesome.
So yeah, people are posting. So like, yeah, let's see. We have. No, wait, what? No, wait, that can't be right. Yeah, it showed like hundreds of. I was like, "There's no way we have hundreds of people already." All right, so we have some little nodes popping up. Who do we got over here? We got somebody in Thailand. Yeah, so if you're in the Bangkok area, this dude is willing to be DM'd for purposes of cash to Monero trades, or vice versa, or to just direct you where you could buy things for Monero in Bangkok. So super excited about that. And it's very easy to do. Just go on your profile, you like click a box, and just you're basically on the map. And then we also added a new listing type. So people were already kind of putting listings, cash for Monero on here, but now we've added an exchange listing type. So you could list that you're selling your Monero, or that you're looking to buy Monero. You could do it as an exchange listing, to looking to buy Monero for cash in person or cash by mail. So similar to a local Monero. And we could, we'll iterate that as needed, but basically very similar to what local Monero's kind of user experience is, or at least that's what we're going for. And then once we launch bonding, my hope is that's when things will really start to flourish, because then people can or won't have to trust each other. So if you're going to make a purchase and you're sending somebody Monero because you're buying something, if you know that they're bonded for the amount that they're selling the product or service or cash for, you'll at least have comfort in the fact that you'll be refunded out of the bond if you're scammed. So that will be launching. That's actually already finished. We just wanted to get this stuff up first, so we'll get that up probably pretty soon because I want it live all by PorkFest. So excited about all that. Excited to see people like embracing it too and being like creating their profile, putting their profiles on the map. People already made exchange listings. Buddy, what do you think? What do you think about the exchange listings and Monero for cash on XMR Bazaar? Obviously, trying to tread carefully here. We're not local Monero at the end of the day. We're different. We never hold anybody's Monero. We're never part of a transfer. It's all peer-to-peer.
It's a good way for people to find each other, to meet up locally in person for cash deals. I think that's great.
Yeah, we'll see, right? Like, are we skirting a line here? I think what we're doing is perfectly legal here in the U.S.
Yeah, you're not holding anyone's funds. The cash is being exchanged in person. It's just a way for people to link up. If I understood that correctly.
And in our disclaimer, and I want to put it elsewhere on the website too. Basically, when people go to create a new exchange listing, just warning people, like, in most jurisdictions, it's illegal to sell Monero as a business. This is meant for people that are using it out of personal need.
Yeah, I mean, it's
follow the rules of your jurisdiction. But something like, people need to be. I'm constantly putting that warning out there, and it's in our terms. But I do think that's something that people need to be cognizant of. And if somebody lives in a jurisdiction where they feel like it's legal to sell Monero for cash as a business, then by all means. But we're not responsible, and we're warning people to be cognizant of that.
So are firearms listings allowed if it's in a legal jurisdiction for that? So like my state, you can sell and buy firearms privately, no paperwork, no background checks, nothing.
Yeah, as long as the customer you're dealing with is also from your state, because if not, then there's probably some federal.
I'm not going to sell a gun to someone. I mean, I'm not selling guns anyway. I don't have any guns to sell, but I wouldn't sell a gun to someone.
But theoretically, we would. Somebody already tried to push that envelope somewhere on XMR Bazaar, I think. But yeah. We don't want blatantly illegal listings on there, and honestly, I don't want controversial listings on. Ideally, right? Because there's so much that we could get out of the non-controversial listings. Like the controversial listings are the tip of the iceberg. There's really not even that much. All that stuff is on dark markets. Like, that's we're $1 billion market over there, but the controversial stuff that you could do on XMR Bazaar really. Is it worth it? It just brings needed attention to the platform when we could get so much value out of selling eggs and cheese and milk and whatever else you need to live off of with Monero, and selling your legal services. And there's a ton of value of just having a place where we could all do that. All right, buddy, I'll let you continue. Just need to get that in there.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Everybody use XMR Bazaar. It's one of a kind. The Craigslist.
What am I gonna do with my 10 pounds of meth if I can't sell it on XMR Bazaar?
Obviously, you should talk about it online on the ClearNet.
So I'm advertising. I want people to hit me up. Just kidding. That's a joke. I don't have any meth. I don't have any drugs.
Have firearms. He said
Archetype.
He didn't.
Well, what's the big dark market now? The Monero one? It's Archetype, right? Is that the popular one? What's the most popular Monero dark market?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
It's Archetype or something. I checked it out like a year or so ago. Like everyone, I want to check in again just to see it's good to see. I mean, you learn for XMR Bazaar too, right? Like they're pretty good at running marketplaces. So checking out their UX and how they do things and stuff, like, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Although honestly, XMR Bazaar, I mean, is anybody running a Monero multi-sig dark market yet? Because last I checked, that didn't exist. Like the model is always that they're holding, that's why people get rugged all the time, because they're always holding everybody's Monero. I don't even know. Have they since evolved? Do you guys know? I guess not.
Sorry, I legitimately don't use dark night market, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, there's nothing wrong with viewing them to see what they're up to.
Nothing wrong with just taking a little look.
Yeah. I mean, it's data, right? Like, so you want to see what are they actually using it, and if you go check it out, they sure enough they are.
There's a couple XMR chats here if you want to put them up.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah,
I'll probably start doing these at a standard time, so we don't have this kind of weird. But I'll go and bring these up. Nihilist tips $1.23. Yeah, whenever you trades on RitoSwap, the only way for Coinbase to know that the Bitcoin has went through RitoSwap is for the guy you transact with on RitoSwap to actually switch to Coinbase, that they received the BTC per the transaction, or peer-to-peer transactions. Yeah. And on tip, yeah, thanks for the tip. Yeah, RitoSwap's pretty good like that, and it's cool to see the. It's having like volume growth. Like people are using it. I still need to try and do a transaction on there. I've just been lazy. And on tipped 4 cents. When someone has done too many swaps, he is a money transmitter who is also flagged by Chainalysis. So it's really no different to any instant swap site. Well, you're not like swapping directly from an exchange. Like you're. Oh wait, you're probably referencing that to the previous conversation of swapping earlier. Yeah,
as providing a business or service.
Well, they don't know that just because you're swapping. I mean, people swap all the time for whatever reason they want.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be on XMR Bazaar being like, I sell Monero as a business. Here are my
or at least I don't. It's not I buy and sell Monero. Right.
Right.
That'll probably get you flagged pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I do want to show though is just the if you could pull this, I don't know why it's not letting me.
There's another XMR chat as well.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, you can bring up the other XMR chat. Tux, go ahead and bring that up.
Roger General Store tip 10 cents. I sell Coke, off-brand Coke at least. Wait, what? This is Coca-Cola, like a soda. Yes. Okay.
He's selling Coke on XMR. That's based. He's based. Selling Coke on XMR Bazaar. MoneroTopia PorkFest, June 16th to the 22nd. It's all week long, but I don't show up till Wednesday, and then the talks. I think maybe we do actually have somebody talking on Wednesday, because that's only when he can come, Joel, Venezuela. But then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is when it will kick off. It's actually same time as MoneroCon, so if you can't make it to MoneroCon, make it over to PorkFest. This is the U.S. Monero conference. You can consider it. I mean, it's gonna be pretty awesome. It's not like a MoneroTopia where I put tons of effort into flying in speakers and all this stuff, but it's going to be a scene that will naturally occur at PorkFest. We have the largest tent there. We're basically one of the largest sponsors there. I will be giving a main stage talk at PorkFest, which is really cool because that comes with the tent sponsorship. So a bunch of new people are going to be learning about XMR Bazaar that don't necessarily know about it yet. There's a lot of liberty-loving people at PorkFest that know about Monero, but maybe aren't like totally into it yet. So it should be a growing experience for Monero. And then Ross will be there. Ross Albright will be there. So we'll be at some point. I hope we'll be having a conversation about Monero and XMR Bazaar. Will be pretty surreal if I'm like giving a talk on XMR Bazaar.
Did he confirm
and
that
Ross
he's coming
is viewing
to PorcFest?
Yes, he tweeted it out. That
Oh,
he'll
I
be
missed that.
attending. Yeah,
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
It was cool seeing him at Bitcoin.
Yes.
He overshadowed Michael Saylor, who went on for way too long.
Yeah, no, his talk was amazing. Oh, we didn't put up all the new speakers. We'll be adding them, but we even have Ross's mom even. So she's gonna be hanging out at the MoneroTopia tent. She's gonna have a table outside of it.
Very cool.
Which is cool. She'll be hanging with us. So yeah, it's gonna be knock on wood. It's gonna be magical.
Man, if I wasn't going to Europe, I would come to PorcFest. It would have been a done deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be sold. If it's not sold out already, it'll definitely be sold out. It's gonna be a moment. And then there's one other large sponsorship tent, and that's also privacy tech coins. I don't know how this happened, but like the Pirate Chain crew with like the Jeff Berwick crew, I think is running. I don't know why they didn't just like, they could have participated. Anarchapulco people and Pirate Chain, they participated in MoneroTopia anyway. So I don't know why they went off and did that, but I guess it's good. So like PorcFest will be overrun with privacy tech, privacy coins. So should be cool. Should be awesome.
Well, you know what? I get to see Michael Saylor again in Prague, okay? So, you know what?
Oh, really? You're going to go to that too?
Yeah, we're going to have some of us are going to be at BTC Prague, which is basically BTC Vegas.
Yeah, you guys
but on a smaller scale.
You guys are doing the corporate thing. I'm the grassroots guy.
Gotta advertise.
Yeah. Well, MoneroCon will be awesome, I'm sure. And
MoneroCon will be fun.
We'll be streaming MoneroCon at MoneroTopia. Obviously, some of the talks will be too early because it's going to be European time. But I'm sure people will gather around and watch Luke Parker, and yeah, it should be cool. Maybe we'll have Ross Albright sitting there watching Luke Parker give a talk. That'd be sick.
He's probably going to be forced to do like 20 million podcast interviews while he's there.
Oh, Luke? No, Ross.
No,
yeah,
Ross.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. Well, hopefully people don't badger him too much.
He knows it comes with the territory at this point.
Yeah.
Seems like
he seems really good at talking already. Like
yeah. Oh my God, his speech was amazing.
He's a natural. Yeah. And I will say it's really funny that he's the only person that could have gone up on that stage and not talked about like Bitcoin in this main subject stance. He really just talked about cryptocurrency as a whole and how he's interested and how there's interesting other chains, other stuff that people are doing. And he's the only one that could have done that without getting booed off the stage. Really,
exactly. Yeah, he's changing the culture of crypto.
Well, him and all the stablecoin people, obviously.
Other than stablecoins, which is really the main subject of Bitcoin.
He's helping to kill Bitcoin maximalism, though.
Someone made like a whole montage where it's like stablecoin.
Yeah.
Like
it was wild. Well, I had Aaron on last week, and he has pretty good narrative about what's happening with the stablecoins, how it's basically the backdoor CBDC, and he's been following it pretty closely and looking at who the people behind the legislation, how they're tied into, these basically like the Coinbases of the world and whatnot. Yeah, it is effectively the backdoor CBDC, and you have everybody adopting it. I mean, already it's huge, right? The market cap of transactions happening via stablecoins is larger than anything else, crypto, right?
I mean, Tether's like controllable. It's censorable.
Right. So talk about defanging cryptocurrency. If most people are just using traceable CBD, traceable stablecoins that are essentially CBDCs, and they're all completely backed by the U.S. dollar, and it becomes, this is where we could dump the dollar, right? Put it into stables, so it becomes a market for propping up the dollar. It is the Genius Act. It is quite genius. I'll say it's in an evil way. It is pretty genius. Aaron talks about it very eloquently, so he'll be giving a talk about that as well at PorcFest, and I had him on last week. But Buddy, what do you think? Do you think that's a pretty solid thesis there?
I mean, it was my thesis for like 3 years now that I said on the price report over and over again that stablecoins are kind of a quasi CBDC. I don't like the phrase backdoor CBDC because they're not really CBDCs. Like, if you look at the definition of what a CBDC is, of what the point of having a nationally issued digital currency is, it's the ability to have accounts, some kind of an account directly with the central bank, as opposed to right now where there's this second layer of banks, and the central bank is just a place for reserves, and then most of the printing is done by the banks themselves. So it's not really truly a CBDC in that sense. Which is kind of why I started talking about, well, it's a power, Tether, USDC. These are power projections of the United States dollar into cryptocurrency, obviously, and then into all the places that you can trade cryptocurrency, which is the real world, right? Everywhere in the real world. Latin America, Russia, Southeast Asia, etc. So it's not really, like it would be. I kind of stopped saying backdoor CBDC. It's kind of like quasi CBDC because it's not really a CBDC, but it is a way to. I think they're using Tether at the moment and USDC to cover shortfalls in treasuries purchases, right? So the United States government sells treasuries on the open market.
Yeah, they're going to become like the largest holder.
I mean, they are like one of the top. They're already one of the top 10 holders of.
Right. So doesn't that effectively like make them like tied into the central banks too? I don't know.
That's what I say. It's they're like quasi CBDCs. It was a brilliant move. It was a power play. It makes a lot of sense, and it's the reason like the tacit deals, and now not so tacit. Like it seems pretty obvious to me and to quite a lot of other people. The tacit deals that Tether made originally with the United States government. I think that's a big reason why it seemed for a long time like they operated a lot like the fractional reserve banking system. They didn't have the reserves for a very long time, and independent researchers had been saying that. Then the New York Attorney General came out and said, yeah, Tether was not good for the money they said they had, sometimes almost none of it for a long period of time. They pivoted from saying we are one-to-one backed by cash to saying it's backed by reserves. And then we saw in 2020, where Tether just went on a massive printing spree. That money was used to drive up the price of Bitcoin, which enabled Tether to print more Tether, which enabled them to drive up the price of Bitcoin. So it was kind of like this leverage cycle. Same thing happens in the regular markets. The banks print. You get all this leverage, all this money washing through the system, and then corporations have higher values. So then guys like Musk can be like, hey, look at how high my stock is. Let me take some more loans from that. And we can invest some more money, right? And there's only so far that cycle can continue until you sort of reach a breaking point. And that's what happened to the top in 2021. So I mean, it's a good theory. Like it's, the CBDC angle is, at least it's, probably something people can understand. People can understand.
I think it makes privacy coins all the more relevant. Like as people open up their eyes to what's happening here, they see people getting corralled.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and I often have these, I shouldn't say often, but occasionally I have these conversations on Twitter and people are like, oh, well, you're just one of those tether truthers and you think it's going to collapse. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? They're working with the government, the United States government. They're not going to collapse unless they really want them to. And why do you think that they haven't actually ever released any comprehensive true regulation in the United States for stablecoins? They operate in this kind of like gray area. It's because they don't want to. They want to keep Tether with that power projection.
And now with the new regulations, now with the new regulations, it's going to be all regulatory capture. So those who already have their stable coins, they will be the only players in town. Nobody else will be able to enter the market.
Maybe I missed the regulations, but I haven't seen anything that's significant. I mean, they're always kind of making scribbles happen, but I haven't really seen any truly comprehensive regulations that change the game on stablecoins. It just kind of like solidifies stuff that they're already doing. But, I could have missed something. So if someone has some new piece of legislation that I missed that says, actually, no, it's this way now, feel free to share that.
Alrighty, man. Take it away. Take it away. I don't want to keep our special guests waiting too long here.
Yeah, we're.
So we've got. I've been the one interrupting, but now we must move on.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got the Monero chart in front of us, obviously. You know what? Something I always forget to do. Maybe I can adjust the screen slightly. There we go. All right. Yes, we got the Monero chart in front of us, as we talked about previously, I think a couple weeks ago. No, it was just last week. Yeah, we tagged the obvious line hit. And maybe for those of you, if you haven't seen the show in the past couple weeks, that obvious line, I know Anon Mon loves this part of the show. This is the pleb line. This is the astrology for dudes, the tea leaves. We got this line on a chart here. We tagged that line. That was exactly the spot that you would have expected to hit and make a pullback. I don't necessarily think the show is over. Things don't look terrible at the moment. You know, they don't look as spicy as we would want them to. But yeah, there's the upper standard deviation bands, the blue bands, and we got pretty significantly above that. So hitting this line was definitely an obvious spot to think, hey, you know, we need to cool off for a little bit. And, you know, I was thinking to myself this week, we don't actually know. So that dude that lifted $330 million worth of Bitcoin off of whoever, we don't really know if that guy intends to stay in Monero or if he's going to flip in and then try and flip out at some point. So, you know, hopefully he does, right? Hopefully he's, I mean, not that I want to like support anyone that just lifted a whole bunch of money, stole something from someone else, but, you know, we just don't know, right? So hypothetically, maybe he spends some time in Monero and then tries to flip out of Monero. And tries to figure out how to slowly sell it. Of course, if you slowly sell $330 million on the exchange, you know, that might start raising eyebrows. So perhaps he will probably keep some in Monero for a long time. Anyways, yeah, let's drop into the 1 hour.
But he, I mean, how much did he actually move into Monero? I thought it was only like a few million, right?
We don't know. I mean, the price just based, well, early on, just based on the volume from Kraken, we said, hey, maybe like 10 or 15 million, right? And he took a big haircut, right? He got a bunch of slippage there. But we weren't quite sure because, you know, he's also using the instant swap exchangers and he's using RetoSwap, and it seemed like the volumes on RetoSwap went up. So probably some kind of before and after analysis on the RetoSwap volume would be in order to try and assess that. I don't know. Who knows, right? Maybe like 50 million. That's a total wild ass guess. I have no idea. Total wag. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't an insignificant amount, you know, and it did basically take price from like 250 all the way up to over $400 at some point. So
right. So the bullish case could be that maybe he would eventually move more into Monero.
Yeah, I mean, the bullish case is that he's still moving cash into Monero. In fact, I doubt that he moved $330 million into Monero already. So yeah, okay. So we're here on the 1 hour. Yeah, I just wanted to take a look at the 1 hour and see if there's anything useful that we can see, maybe, right? Because sometimes the wave magic takes time to catch up. So yeah, we got the pop up here. And the other thing too is this kind of was driven by a fundamental event, and so you might place slightly less importance on the wave magic when you're talking about a fundamental event. You might say, yeah, okay, sure, statistics and all, but something unique is driving this, as opposed to, you know, just like normal steady state market actions. And statistics work best when you're in this kind of like steady state regime where you haven't exceeded like the typical boundaries that have been defined, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay, anyway, so right now, if I was just looking at this from a TA perspective, I would say that, yeah, actually, it does look like at the moment, Monero is kind of forming this bottom here. The orange bands should act as support. It looks like they've acted as support. It does kind of look like price almost tried to break down through them, but then got back into the bands here. So that's actually pretty good. Hypothetically, we could expect this thing to come try and explore the top of the range here. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't have to get all the way to the top of the range. If things are bearish, hypothetically, right, it might only get to here, do some oscillation, and then maybe it could break down. So I wouldn't say that necessarily the wave magic is telling us which direction it's going to break. I'd probably be looking at what is the rest of the market telling us is going to happen. You know, what's the macro situation, and then, you know, maybe make a determination from there. At this moment, it feels kind of like if the rest of the market's going to go down, Monero's going to go down with it, and if it goes up, then Monero's probably going to go up with it. Just kind of seems to be the case. You know, we're on the radar. Everybody knows about us. Everybody likes us. Fantastic people, Monero people. And so the point is, like, when things are are good and the money's flowing, the people, at least the plebs, are buying into Monero. We're not like this obscure, hated, they're just going to delist it coin anymore, like we were in 2021. So, yeah, $330 basically currently sitting here. Well, from a TA standpoint, what would really be like solid price action is to kind of do this for a little bit, make another pop above here, kind of do that, and then start pushing up against this line, and then at some point break through. Or, things could just smash tomorrow for all I know. Isn't that what we all want? To smash tonight. Anyways, let's take a look at Bitcoin versus Monero. And yeah, things are still looking pretty good here. In fact, this chart actually does look pretty good. You've got the blue bands already curled up. Monero's looks like it's trying to find support there. The thing that you would see here, poorly drawn line. Let me actually zoom in a little bit more. Kind of a messy chart. Maybe I should go. Let me try this one. I'm going to go to a different version of the Wave Magic. I wouldn't say that necessarily is any better, but maybe a tiny little bit better. Okay, so we're looking at the orange bands here, right? This is the clustering of orange bands is about right there. Kind of hard to see, I know. And then we've got the blue bands curling up. So effectively, like with this poke above, it kind of does look like Monero wants to try, in a TA sense, again, guys, just one vector of looking at it. We're going to look at all the vectors, and you put it together in your head how you want to put it together and make your own decisions on trading. Anyways, but we've got the upper standard deviations curling up here. Seems like there's support. Hypothetically, you would kind of expect to break outside of the orange band clustering, right, which is this guy right there. Kind of hard to see, I know. And then, maybe go up from there, right? Try to come up to this spot here, which for a little bit more viewing pleasure, we can expand the chart. And so 10 equates to 1% of the market cap of Bitcoin. So I guess about, what would that be, $10 billion at the current moment? Maybe, wait, 1 trillion, maybe that'd be 100 billion. Don't ask me to do math right now. I'm not like on the top of my on the top of my mental game at this moment. So anyways, it would definitely imply at least getting back to, I would love to be getting above the place where we kind of broke down, we bottomed last bear market, right? Like this is not, really don't want to be below that. Not exactly, I just can't stand the maxis posting this chart at me. When we broke down, that was really annoying. That was actually, honestly, more than the breakdown, more than the delisting, more than the price. I was like, yeah, whatever the price, I got the hodl bag, and it's just going to stay there forever. And, I'll do my trading or whatever elsewhere, my moving of assets, my reallocations, etc. I didn't mind that so much, but what I did mind was the freaking maxis being like, oh, look at the chart, the Bitcoin's so much better. It's like, Jesus, just like confounding every different thing we could talk about. You're just confounding them all together like a mid curver, like a left curver. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why we couldn't pretty easily at some point come back to this level right there. Which would basically, again, I mean, that's kind of the level for the OGs out there. You remember the 2018, the bear market, post 2017 bear market, and we stabilized at that level. Had the run up. It would just be nice to be back in this area, just in general, right? That's a really nice chart to show people, like, hey, it's been over a decade, and we're basically flat, right? We're basically holding a flat price relative to Bitcoin. So on long time frames, you can expect to keep your value. And it's also nice too, because it really is the case that in a lot of times when Bitcoin is going down, Monero is going up or holding steady, or when vice versa, right? So like you're actually, if Monero over long periods of time holds steady relative to Bitcoin, you're actually getting risk diversification there, and that's for finance bros, that's actually a big deal. To get a kind of risk diversification, right? To have uncorrelated assets or non-correlated assets. Okay, so moving on, let's take a look here. Is there anything happening with the divergences? Poloniex is being weird. They always are. I don't see anything else of interest on this chart at the moment. Let's scroll back a little bit. Yeah. Justin Sun, bro, why can't you just get your chart right? Maybe we just remove him. Poloniex close. There we go. Let's just get rid of him. Yeah, I guess everything else seems to be pretty much noise for the most part. Nothing to see there. Do I have? Yeah, I've got some of the shit coins, the privacy shit coins pulled up. Let's see. We'll start with Xano. These guys were giving me some shit because I was trying to look at Monero versus Xano, and they were like, "Oh, you pulled up Nano, bro." It's okay, guys. Jesus, they thought it was some grand conspiracy because I typed XNO. anyways, so just to satisfy that, let's look at Xano. Actually, XMR. No, you do it this way first. So Xano USDT divided by XMR USD. Hopefully that's the correct one. The reason, guys, that I was like trying to do different tickers is because I wanted to capture the full price history, because I hate it when people don't look at full price histories. So I don't know if this is full price history. It probably is. It goes back to 2024, so I guess it is. Xano USDT. Let's just make sure one more time. Absolutely. MEXC Xano USDT. Okay, there we go. So whoever it was, I think I might have even blocked them on Twitter because they just pissed me off, and I was blocking everybody from, maybe not everyone actually. I was trying not to block. I was really trying not to block people because I don't want to shut down lines of communication typically, but there was a couple people that were just so retarded. It was like, dude, I can't, no, like, no, like you're not allowed to comment on my stuff anymore because the bad faith had just gotten so bad. It was just like, are you kidding me, guys? Come on. Actually, I got a little joke for you guys. I don't know if I'll post it on Twitter, but everybody calm down about the Kanye song, all right? He didn't say Hitler. He said Hitler, okay? So it's fine. It's fine. All right, moving on. Yeah, Xano versus Monero seem to have peaked around January, around the New Year's, and they've kind of like done this pullback versus Monero. Am I interpreting this chart right? Tell me, Xano shills, if I got that wrong, but at the moment, it looks like you're having a little bit of trouble keeping it up relative to Monero. But, these are kind of big movements here. So what is that? 70%? Yeah, maybe not that big, not for crypto. Anyways, yeah, so here's the Xano chart. Again, I'm not telling you guys where this chart's going because I think that the volume is probably so low that we can probably actually affect it here on the show, and I don't want to do that. So that's the chart. Goodbye. Firo is, I don't know, kind of stabilizing. Looks like it's stabilizing after that big breakdown. Cool. Pirate Chain is also stabilizing somewhere at the very bottom of where their bear market range is. They're still trying to get above that level. Not the best price action. If the market goes down, Xano's going down. If the market goes up, Xano might eventually figure out how to go up. We won't even look at Darrow. Zcash, come on. There we go. Zcash doing all right, I guess, lately. These are also pretty big movements for Zcash, 80%. So yeah, Zcash has done pretty okay lately. It looks like it actually kind of does look like they might want to be trying to make another movement higher. I don't feel like I can trust this chart. It's, or the people running it. This chart always behaves kind of weird in a lot of ways. So yeah. Mr. Anderson says I should just delete that Darrow chart. I should. It's just a dishonorable mention, right? It's just a good, every now and then I'll rant, once a month or so, I'll see the Darrow chart here and then rant at anyone that's new on the show and be like, well, yeah, this is what they got pwned on their cryptography. And that's what happens when you have a heuristic of bad practices, like releasing bulletproofs before the math audit's done. Like if you see that, then run far away. Like, okay, if you want to, I don't know, buy for a second and catch the wave up and then sell the shit out of it. Sure. I mean, there's shit coins all over the place, and this is one of them. But it's not a serious project. Not when you include a new cryptographic schema before the math audit is concluded, and they just had to wait a few months. So it's like that. It told you everything you needed to know about the security of that project. All right, let's talk about the other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, crypto, not Bitcoin. Okay, so we've got we talked about this last week where we said, hey, actually this is starting to look kind of bullish, right? We are getting this kind of bullish feel to the chart. You've got the moving standard deviations, right? The blue bands here are already starting to curl up. Price had poked its head above, right? When Liberation Day was put on pause to negotiate, to have the best negotiations with all of our wonderful friends, partners and trading partners, the markets, right? They came back. We said, all right, shit's back on, right? That was a macro thing. We called that like a month or 2 months ago now at this point. Anyways, so Bitcoin poked its head above. We said, hey, that's a little bit too far. It's gone a little far. It is now taken its pullback. Let's take a look at this little candle right here. This was a special candle that happened, I believe it was yesterday, maybe it was Friday. Because I had said, hey, this is kind of a spot to start to look for some upside potentially. And we did get a little bit of upside, but then, we got this washout. This is probably a washout candle more than anything. But you'll notice, again, it was still kind of within that range of, hey, the standard deviations are curling up. They typically provide some kind of support. This thing, smashed down and then found support right at that standard deviation level and immediately recovered. And that's the important thing. Immediately recovered. If Bitcoin was still here, or especially if it was here, I'd be slightly worried, that, hey, maybe things aren't so rosy at the moment. This actually looks totally fine. That's just a washout candle. So Bitcoin could be, and the longer it consolidates and shows just generally higher lows and positive movement, right? The longer that this thing continues to consolidate and kind of does this, right, you're eventually going to get a smash up to like the 120, 130 area. So, and obviously, the rest of cryptocurrency could very well go with it. So it seems like I'm kind of struggling with the market right now, because on the one hand, the tariffs supposedly got struck down by the federal court. I should actually, I know this is kind of mixing everything together, but oh well. We'll talk the macro interrelated with the crypto at this moment. Tariffs. We talked about them last week. So more research reveals that the Trump tariffs are actually a framework leveraging many different laws from the past to create this whole tariff framework. And so one of them was challenged actually in Trump presidency 1 was challenged, and that challenge failed. I think they even tried to take it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court declined to hear the case. So those tariffs are just going to stay. Like there's no more challenging those particular tariffs. I don't remember which ones. I don't know, like steel or metal or something. It's just too much for my tiny brain to go research all of this. The point is that some tariffs are like here no matter what. There was another framework that they used, a law that doesn't even say the word tariffs, and they like to say a lot of words when they scribble things down into these laws, and it doesn't say tariffs even once. So they lost in federal court, but they, Trump made an emergency appeal to the appellate court, the federal appellate courts, and they kept the tariffs in place. They're like, hey, we're going to keep these tariffs in place until we sort everything out. We got to figure out what's going on here. Just keep the tariffs in place, because that particular appellate court is like actually kind of friendly to the whole tariff thing, and to Trump and to the right, to the Republicans. So supposedly what's going to happen here in another week or two, they're going to hear the arguments for why the emergency relief should remain. In other words, the tariff should remain while they hash this out for 6 to 9 months in the federal appellate court. Or whether those should get struck down for the next 6 to 9 months while they hash this out in the appellate court. That decision could actually have a significant effect on the markets, guys, and where things go. So we're like, right now, I don't have any predictions for you. I can't necessarily tell you exactly what's going to happen. I'm sort of in this conflicted spot here where Bitcoin is actually looking kind of bullish, right? Bitcoin actually looks relatively bullish on the wave magic. It wouldn't surprise me to see this thing go up. At the same time here, I'm looking at the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, and we are definitely at the kind of levels that you say, hey, it's going to be hard to beat this top, right? It's like that's the recent all-time high. And yeah, the NASDAQ always puts on new all-time highs, but we've got the top there, and then we've got the top of the blue bands as well. I'm seeing resistance for stocks right now. I don't, we talked about last week, like, hey, it would not surprise me to see more positivity in stocks. At this moment, it's hard for me to think that there's going to be more positivity here. I think there's an uncertainty moment coming up with the appellate courts regarding the tariffs and whether or not the emergency relief is going to be continued, right? If the tariffs are going to continue or not while they're sorting out the appeal in federal court. So, I think if you got stocks, like now is not terrible profit-taking moment until we actually know the answer to that question. That wouldn't be a bad move, right? If you're a traditional finance bro, or maybe if you're on Kraken and you're buying ETFs, because Kraken apparently has ETFs for certain people in certain states. So you could probably be trading your stocks on Kraken, obviously. Why wouldn't you? All right. Anyways, technically speaking, here the S&P 500 does have a little bit of room to where it could hypothetically get to the top of this of the upper standard deviation bands there. Maybe, contrary to what I was just saying, maybe there could be some tiny little bit of mild positivity still going into next week, right? We're not quite at the moment that they reveal or that they do the review, which I think it's a week or two from now. So perhaps there could be just a little bit of more gains to squeeze here. Sorry about that. There could be just a little bit more gains to squeeze here, right? Maybe the NASDAQ can actually flex up here for like just another 1% or 2.
and actually like triple top. Usually triple tops don't exist, and that would actually mean going higher. So anyways, that's kind of like, that's how I'd play that. I still do like the Bitcoin chart at the moment. Let's go back to the crypto. Let's go back to the cryptos. Okay, we could look at the Z-scores and see here that Tron is just crushing it. Tron is doing better than everybody else, including Monero at the moment, probably because of all their quasi CBDC stuff going on there. Let me check these super chats here, make sure I probably missed something. I'm sure I have. Shortwave Surfer, I don't know if Tux, you want to get on and put these super chats up, but actually it looks like we have Nihilist first. Oh, we have quite a lot of them. Bueller. All right, I guess the bros have disappeared, and I'll have to continue on. I'll wait until they come back. I'll put your super chats up here, guys, or XMR chats up here, guys, whenever Tux shows back up. All right. Anyway, so we're looking here at Tron, at the doing good. Whatever. Z-score is not too interesting today. FTT, FTT is like they're hoping that they can get something going on there, but just FTT seems to be underperforming consistently for the past many months now. I guess it makes sense. Why does anyone care about FTT token anymore? Didn't they all go bankrupt? Let's see. People talked about Ethereum last week. Nothing happened with Ethereum for the past week. It just kind of sat here flat. Actually, nothing's happened with Ethereum for the entire month of May, except for it made one pump. I guess it's consolidating. You'd still kind of hope that this thing could make it up here to the blue bands at least, right? For the ETH hodlers out there, for the ETH true believers. All right. Being schizophrenic as we have been for most of the show anyways, why don't we just go back to Monero and look at the Monero transactions. Currently sitting just above 20,000. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess, this still has the feel of like kind of bottoming, right? You've got kind of this around 20,000 lows. Oh, wait, no, that's for many years though. Really would like to see this get up a little bit higher. I mean, obviously, that indicates getting higher on this chart obviously indicates real adoption. And I feel like a lot of coins artificially inflate their numbers, right? I've seen just weird shit from all of the different competing proof of work use case coins, proof of work monetary use case coins, where their transactions per day just vacillate wildly. And then they always seem to vacillate just before the bull market kicks off, just before the real price action happens. And it's like, and then you don't see a similar movement to Monero. Like I saw that in 2021. And you think to yourself, how is that possible, right? Like it just isn't, right? Like Litecoin did not do a 5x in their transaction counts in the period of 2 days. All of a sudden, just before the bull market hit. No, that was arranged to make the appearance, that they wanted. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So Monero transactions looking good. Let's take a look at the hash rate. Might as well. Average hash rate per day. Yeah. Okay. So we had a big spike. We're still doing better than before the launch of Tari. So yeah, things are still looking pretty nice here on the hash rate. We could still use a 10x on this to get like solidly outside of the reach of any potential government computer, Amazon supercomputer, whatever fuckery. Insert other technological words there. Okay, thanks. We got the crypto. We covered Monero, and I guess we could just take a look here at the rest of the macro here. Gold is still actually, gold is doing pretty good here. It has the same kind of feel on a shorter time frame. Like this is exactly the kind of feel in previous moments where we saw gold make big movements towards the upside and then fizzle out a bit, right? So if we come back here to 2020, right after the C word happened, after the economy caught a cold, right? It kind of had this feel where it's like, yep, here, and then you think, oh, we could be consolidating, like, oh, you're just consolidating more. We continue to consolidate, but then the markets are all running during this entire time frame. The rest of the risk markets were running, and then gold takes a big dip because everyone's like, well, I'm getting gains. I could have gotten gains if I was in stocks. And then so everyone like kind of naturally sells and then finishes that process of sort of suppressing gold, doing the work of the deep state for them because they've been psychologically moved to do so. And that includes me. Why would you stay in gold if you know the markets are just like, if it's game on, right? So at the moment, it has kind of a similar feel as that, but just because I feel something doesn't mean that's going to be the case. Let's go and take a look at the wave magic, see if there's anything revealing happening with the wave magic. This could take a minute to load. Yeah, so okay, we're basically gold is just staying within the purple bands. From a wave magic standpoint, you would say, yeah, okay, that got out of hand for a little bit. Now we're back here at the purple bands. Still plenty of opportunity just to continue riding those up. That's how the purple bands function. They basically give you the range, the target slope in a bull market when things are quite good. They give you the target slope to return to and to sort of ride, to oscillate around on your way to glory and victory. So 3,000 is pretty good for gold. Glory and victory probably is more like, I don't know, 20,000, 50,000, right? 3,000 is good. 3,000 is keeping you happy. 3,000 is kept pace with the stock market. So can't really complain about being in gold for the past couple of years when it has kept pace with risk assets the entire time. Probably says something about inflation. Okay, let's take a look at oil. Oil actually looks like it might wanting to be recovering. And if oil does recover, guys, I'm just going to say it's game on for the markets, right? If oil manages to get here and back up above this line and staying above, say, the 65 area, I'm going to say that we're looking at more gains, right? That's basically like macro crash thesis. Goodbye. Long-term macro crash thesis. Get out of here. Forget about it. And maybe that would correspond with like the Trump tariffs being struck down at the appellate court at some point. Or the insider knowledge that they've already, let me rephrase that. They have already been struck down. It's just that has to get upheld. If it gets upheld by the appellate court, that Trump is going to appeal to the Supreme Court. So they are probably going to leverage this entire thing to insider trade the markets, right? For a long period of time, right? They've got the next 6 to 9 months of the appellate court. We can revisit that later when it's time to make the decision and, the speculation of what the judges are going to say, and then the markets, will trade, and then some news will come out, and then some counter news will come out, and then the counter news will come out until we get the announcement of the ruling. And then the markets, will move whatever direction. And then they'll say, well, but we're going to appeal it to the Supreme Court, and they're going to look for emergency relief from the Supreme Court, right? So it's a clusterfuck, guys. Like, it's just going to be a clusterfuck. That's what they've shown. I mean, come on. They came out, they let out with Trump and Melania coins on Sol. So you just got to expect it from here on out. It means that my tea leaves, my astrology for dudes is going to be potentially less reliable, right? The notion of technical analysis could be a little bit less reliable because they're relying on the sort of news cycles, news events to jack markets around to an extra degree than we would normally see. Okay, whatever. That's what markets are. That's how the game is played. It's bullshit. What are you going to do? You're going to try and trade it. That's what you're going to do. You're going to create your LLM bot to monitor the news cycle constantly so that you can get into trades immediately within 30 seconds of big news dropping. Hope you trained your LLM to a high degree for market news. Okay, Dixie's actually taken a tumble. Probably this is correlated somewhat with stock markets coming back and Bitcoin crypto coming back. This is classic action for the Dixie. We said a month ago or 2 months ago, we said, hey, we're actually probably looking to touch this pleb line down here, right? So this big guy down there, you can see it goes back decades. It's a big line. Everyone's looking at this line. Yeah, this line right here. So it makes a lot of sense to touch that line. We are looking at the logarithmic. You could try and make the argument that we shouldn't look at the Dixie on logarithmic, and then maybe you could move that line like that. So right now, actually, this is where the problems of pleb lines come into play, and you can see them right now. Should we look at the logarithmic chart on the Dixie or the non-log chart on the Dixie? It's like, well, we don't have really a good answer for that. I mean, okay, we could say it's moved from, the mid 50s or whatever up to a high of like 130 and then say, oh, well, that's logarithmic, but it's really range bound. It truly is range bound. So I don't know, guys. I don't know which one to look at here. You could probably just draw them both, right? We could probably just draw both lines and then say, hey, that is the zone. In fact, why don't we just do that now? I'll just show you, like, just for your own edification, your own purposes at home. All right, so we're looking at the weekly. Let's take this and go from the regular to the logarithmic scale. And then you'll notice, okay, this line has just changed slightly. So we're going to just click and drag, which will give us a new line. And then we're going to draw this line like that. And over here, we'll do that. There we go. All right. So now what you have is a messier looking chart, but at least we have a zone, right? We can say, hey, we are looking for the dollar index to get probably somewhere into this zone and find support. I don't know if it could do that like this week, maybe it could just crash down here, stock markets bounce. Anyways, the point is that you're going to find some support at some point there and then probably, do that. That would seem to make sense. It's such a massive, massive place of support that has existed for so many years that you breaking this line down and just never revisiting it, like coming down and then breaking down without any support would be quite odd. So anyways, yeah, that's the dollar index and a way to think about charts, right? To think about lines. Don't get yourself locked in, right? It's like you don't want to be a maximalist of pleb lines. That could probably get you burned. Okay, we talked about gold, Dixie. Verse repos, not really doing anything yet. So, oh yeah, last week I said, hey, if this thing goes high and stays high, right? If we stay up here, maybe that indicates some kind of shift in the market. It didn't. It always doesn't. It came back down. So that doesn't really tell us anything. There's not really any signal there at the moment. Well, let's check. Did we get any numbers? Any big numbers? No big numbers have come out. Maybe we missed. Yeah, I think I missed an unemployment number. Man, they really are playing with us here. So this thing is flat topped, right? The unemployment is flat topped. And I've kind of said, hey, if this thing spikes up again, that's really a big point in favor of macro crash, but it hasn't, right? It's just it's flat topped here. And the reality is that 4.2% unemployment historically is supposed to be good, right? That's actually a sign of a good, healthy market. It's because if it's too low, people are looking, the companies need people and they're willing to pay them a lot, which makes the inflation happen. But if it's too high, nobody has a job and everyone's poor or whatever. So yeah. All right, so we got some unemployment numbers, and this numbers has not been resolving at all for any of the macro, any crash or no crash or whatever. This hasn't really resolved anything necessarily, and probably the longer that this stays here in this range at the 4% range, the 4-ish% range, probably the more that this SOM rule that we talked about just becomes irrelevant, and especially if it falls, if this falls again a little bit. The SOM rule just becomes basically irrelevant. I'm going to have to say, if this continues till the end of the year, then the SOM rule is broken, right? That's basically what that would mean. I think that's probably all I got for you guys. We do have XMR chats. I don't know if Doug and Tux are here or not.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh yeah, because there's some XMR chats, and I was asking to put them on screen. We can do it now, I guess.
Yes.
Starting with ... So ellipses tipped.
Shortwave surfer, I think actually.
No, we're on. It's farther down. It's so after Aurora General Store was this. It was just ... What do you think of BTC Cashew? That was the first one.
Scroll up. Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So ellipses $1. What do you think of BTC?
Yeah, BTC Cashew. It's custodial. You're trusting the minter for your funds. Basically, you're trusting them that they won't do malicious. I don't know too much about it. I just know that it is custodial in the sense that you're entrusting your funds to a minter. So I don't think it's something we'd consider for cash. I mean, we're already considering Lightning, and that's a pain in the ass enough doing non-custodial. We don't really want to add something that is just straight up non-custodial, even if it does some interesting things. So probably not.
At this point, I want to interject here and say, at this point, any layer 2 bullshit fancy cryptography magic, cutely named cashew, whatever, eCashew mints, all of that bullshit, Enigma network, don't believe a fucking any of it until they prove it, until they release it, until everybody's using it, until they're all using it, until they abandon Lightning Network for the new thing. Or integrated Lightning Network into it, and they're always going to be oh, it's happening, bro, but it never is. Every time I just stopped looking at this stuff, because every time that they would say some new thing, oh, this new thing is going to solve all the problems or most of them, and it's great. We're for years they keep saying things oh, well, we're ready now. We're ready. Now it's ready. They I just don't believe them anymore. So it's kind of it's not the best mentality to take, but it's you cried wolf so many times. How can I believe you anymore?
Yeah, true.
All right, then we got Nihilist.
Nudged up to $1.23. Everyone needs to try and get Ross Ulbricht to say the Monero word publicly. It's a huge opportunity for adoption. When we think about it, let's not miss this opportunity. We have simple as sneaky Monero into a question when he's speaking on stage. I'm sure Ross already. I'm sure at this point he's aware of Monero. I would be surprised if he wasn't.
There's no way he's not aware.
I'm hoping to have. I mean, I'll have that moment at PorcFest. He'll be there. He'll be there Saturday. It's gonna happen. Yeah, he obviously knows about Monero, but yeah, maybe I get get him on a 10-minute Monero talk, just quickly talking to him about it.
Yeah, well, now we're going to get some indication at least of what his what he thinks about altcoins. And
yeah, maybe we get him up on stage in our tent. I certainly can't promise that. I'm obviously not going to badger him, but I'll politely ask if he wants to jump up on a panel, and he might go for it.
Seems like he's got a tightrope to walk, because the maxis were actually a big factor in, the political willpower to get a pardon for him. So, he's probably got a little bit.
It was really the libertarian. It was the Libertarian Party, man. That
really.
It was the chairwoman of the Libertarian Party. She's the one that really got the job done. She basically brokered a deal with Trump.
Interesting.
It was at the Libertarian National Convention. That's where the deal was really sealed. So, obviously, the Bitcoiners were, they were kind of running the Libertarian Party at that point, in a way. Not, I shouldn't say running it, but they had a large influence. But yeah, she's not an extreme Bitcoiner. The chairwoman of the party, Angela. Well, I think she's now working in the Trump administration, but I think she's the one that probably deserves the most credit for it, from what I witnessed.
All right, moving on. Short Wave Surfer, tip 10 cents. XMR / USD equals 242. Price hasn't gone down for like a year. Okay. Sure thing. Magnus from 2030 tipped $1. How does 50 million of buying increase the market cap by 1 billion?
Wait, sorry, hang on. I was musing on Shortwave's comment. How does 50 million of buying increase the market cap by 1 billion? Oh, because every dollar that you use to purchase an asset, or quote unquote dollar, whether it's Bitcoin, doesn't matter. Every dollar that you use to purchase some asset pushes the market cap up by more than $1. And it's just kind of like a fact of markets. It's the way that markets work. So imagine that you had a market cap of 100 million and someone came in and bought 10% of the supply. Well, typically for most assets, you don't have all of that supply sitting on the market in the order books ready to be purchased, right? So the only way that you can get into an asset is to get on to some place, either trade it locally with someone that has it, or to get on to some kind of exchange. And the exchanges have order books. It's people willing to buy and sell. And so price is set at the edges. So if you've got an order book, an order book is thin, right? Maybe there's only $1 million on the order books at all, and you want to get $10 million into an asset that's 100 million. You're going to clean that order book out all the way, and every sell order that you clean out marches that price higher. So you can move market caps significantly with a much smaller amount of money. It all just depends on what the liquidity looks like. And so the highest price pumps that happen for any asset happen at the lowest liquidity for exactly this reason. People like Monero's not liquid. It's like, well, yeah, but that can actually be a good thing for price. Bitcoin made its biggest price moves with the lowest liquidity. And it's specifically for this reason because, well, there's just not that many orders on the book. And so when someone comes in and starts buying, you're just cleaning out all of those sell orders, and then the price ends up at some significantly higher place. And it took less money to get there than the market cap increased. And you can sort of game this as well, especially they do this a lot with shitcoins, with tokens and ETFs, and not ETFs, with tokens, ERC20s and Solana tokens and all this stuff. They can game the shit out of this. That's why you see Squid token was was $1 trillion, market cap. It's not real. And then he's like, oh my God, it just crashed, right? Because you can kind of try and game that system. And there's little things you can probably look at to tell, is this being gamed or not? Especially, is this a new asset that got invented yesterday and it's now $1 trillion market cap? That's probably fake, right? Whereas Monero is we have kind of a deeper market. You have real use cases, a lot of people actually using it. So anyways, that's kind of a long answer. Hopefully that makes sense for you, Magnus.
All right. That was all the super chats. We have a couple other body questions if you want to answer them.
Yeah, we got some of these YouTube comments. Roy asks, hey, Body, last week I was asking you about DEX versus SEX. Can you explain a bit more? What controls do they have with the keys SEX? I thought your wallet would control the funds. And then he says later, For example, I have read the documentation about Starkware, and they have some kind of controls of the funds in the system. I mean, so you're asking, maybe I didn't fully understand that properly, but you're asking, how does a DEX does a DEX control your keys, or you're asking if a SEX controls you? The centralized exchange has your funds. Like, it's not so much that they control your keys, it's that they control your funds. And if you want your funds, they've got to send them to your keys, right? I don't know. I mean, some of these guys like Binance Chain, there's probably supposedly you're holding your own keys with Binance Chain, but they're running all the validators. So there's a question of, could they take your funds if they wanted? Probably, but they're probably not going to do that. But if you've got millions of dollars, maybe maybe they would. Maybe they'd actually need billions of dollars before they would start fucking with you in that way. Versus a DEX, right? A DEX is all just like cryptographically handled. You hold your own keys. You always hold your own keys. Your counterparty, you and your counterparty do a kind of cryptographic exchange that makes the swap atomic. Actually, that's atomic swaps. I think RetoSwap is based on arbitration. In fact, it is based on arbitration. RetoSwap is just based on a multi-sig. You've got three parties: you, the counterparty, and the arbitrator. If you and the counterparty both agree and you cooperate nicely, like you should, you both sign the transaction, the funds get transferred. But if one of you disappears, or God forbid, gets hit by a bus or something, then the arbitrator will come in, make the determination. You'll submit your cryptographic proofs, really, your transaction proof that, hey, I did send the funds. He never sent it to me. And then the arbitrator will release the funds that were put up into the multi-sig. They'll release those funds to you. So that's a very bad way of explaining it. I'm sorry. I guess I'm just not on my explanation game this morning, but hopefully that makes sense. Tux, feel free to chime in there if if you can offer more clarity than the way I phrased it. I think it was a bit too long.
No, I think it's fine. I have nothing really to add.
All right.
Sorry, guys. It's hard to bring all of these up.
When you're eating.
Yeah, I am. Let's see.
Yeah, we had another one.
Yeah, unless you see anything else you want me to pull up, we can go ahead and move along.
I thought I did see one. Hang on, let me take one more scan here. No, I guess that was it. Okay. Which sex does not mind if you send them Monero? It's Kraken. From now, it's Kraken. You can use other ones, but they're shady, right? They're a lot more shady. Probably the only other one that I would say maybe you could use is Qcoin. Qcoin seems to be okay. MEXC might surprise KYC you at any moment, and also they probably don't have any Monero anyway, so don't put your coin on MEXC. Just don't do it. You might never get that coin back. Qcoin, I've seen some peripheral indicators that they might be okay. They might generally have the Monero that they say. That's the only other one I would think about. Maybe Bitfinex, if you KYC'd with them and done all the stuff. Maybe Bitfinex. Probably Bitfinex, but I don't know anyone that's actually used Bitfinex for Monero. I heard some rumors, but anyways. Sorry, Doug. Go ahead, man. Oh, we have another XMR chat. Shortwave Surfer tip Shortwave Surfer 2009 tipped 10 cents. RetoSwap 1.1.2 based on Haveno 1.1.2 has been released with a few nice UI updates. Have a look. Absolutely. Thank you for that information.
I will take a look.
Point release.